Alright guys, I have been a little slow on the channel lately, and I'll tell you the reason. So I've been getting this truck here ready for the finest government scrutiny of a Class A CDL test. And I did pass. So I actually took that test about last Friday. I took that test. So it's Thursday of the next week right now, but finally got a good clear day, nice and warm out. So I'll do a video walk through that test with this vehicle and sort of what you should expect, because a lot of you guys will take CDLs that aren't a traditional tractor trailer. So I use this dovetail, or this dovetail trailer. It's a 16,000 pound trailer, and it's about 20 foot deck, a little over 20 foot of deck, and about 5 foot of dove hooked to the back of the truck. It is a Pintle Hitch trailer, and from the tail of the bumper to the front of this bumper is about 58 feet, and it's about another 2 foot, a little more than 2 foot out to the boom, so about 60 foot setup all told. It does handle and back pretty well. I say out here to the end of the boom because when you're doing your tests for your skills test, they'll have cones set up. They do not want the end of this boom to encroach those cones. So that's particular to a boom truck, but any kind of truck that has any appendage that sticks over the bumpers or anything like that, that counts, at least where I did my test, that counted as my total length. And that you could not cross that appendage over those cone barriers, basically. So for my test, and I'm in Central Illinois, I tested at a local place here, but their test that I had to go through is the pre-trip. And this truck pre-trips about like a semi minus the fifth wheel. There's nothing too crazy. It is an air brake truck. Here in Illinois at our DMVs, and I did an interstate CDL. So at our DMVs, they will go around and they have a little iPad, and that iPad will sort of signal them to check certain things. And then I imagine it's probably mandatory on all of them that you'll go through the in-cab portion and have to go through the air brake test, and you can't miss any on the air brake test or it's an automatic fail. I think when I did my in-cab portion, I did all the in-cab stuff right. I forgot about the horn, and she did prompt me or if I was forgetting something. And as soon as she said it, I knew I'd forgotten the horn. That's something they have to check for safety on the road test. The air brake test, I knocked it out okay, except midway through, I realized I had sort of skipped. Normally, when I was preparing to do the air brake portion of the test, I would do my checks, and with the vehicle running, go through all my gauge checks and everything. And before I would fan down the brakes, I would do the 5 mile-an-hour rolling, hit the brakes, make sure the wheels don't pull side to side, showing that the brakes are adjusted properly. I forgot to do that and started fanning it down. And then after the fan down test, I don't think it's required in Illinois. They didn't mention anything about it, but I let it build back up to the governor, show that the governor kicked out where it needed to be. And then after that, I did my 5 mile-an-hour brake test. So I caught that as I was going through there. I'd forgotten it. I didn't say anything that I had forgotten it, but I didn't tell them that I was done either before I performed that test. So I passed, and I just got it out of order. But I don't think it has to be in any perfect order as long as you complete all the tests. That said, the only other things they really tested me on was under the hood for pre-trip, suspension, and she actually sort of cut me off in times. Basically, she was looking for certain things on that iPad examination that it was prompting. So she actually sort of cut me off and then jumped me down to the steering and the suspension components about midway through some of my engine compartment checks. So that can kind of throw you off if you're not prepared for it, but I work on the vehicle, so I know the vehicle real well. And I was able to go along with the flow. It didn't really bother me. And then the other area we checked was we did a full walk around visual, but the other main area of focus was on the hitch. Again, not a conventional fifth wheel, so they don't see a lot of these either. But I do know there's people out there. I don't see too many YouTube videos on pre-tripping one of these. But the main thing, and again, these examiners, not all of them are, some of them might even have their CDL. This examiner did not have her CDL. She was just going through the examination list. She was actually training another examiner while examining me. So that could be a little bit nerve-wracking, but I knew this set up well. I basically just talked through my Pintle hitch, my Pintle ring, making sure it was properly mounted and secure, my Pintle hitch, my Pintle hook, properly mounted and secure. It was fastened. I talked about the locking pin, and then I also have a security pin that makes sure that thing cannot come unlocked. Talked about the spring, the castle nut, the Carter pin, all that being properly mounted and secure. The bumper is properly mounted and secure. I had you'll have your safety cable for a trailer this big, properly mounted and secure. Battery box. Make sure it was charged. This is stuff they don't normally see. So she appreciated the fact that I was talking through it, because their little examination sheet isn't really set up for Pintle hitch trailers. Talk through your landing gear, stowing of your handle, talk through your electrical connection, and I even have an adapter on my electrical connection. This is a 7-pin round to 7-pin flat, and I talked through it just that way. I told her my 7-pin round to 7-pin flat adapter is properly mounted and secure. The clips are properly locked. This one I've already disconnected the trailer. So even though it looks a little funny, it's still legal. It's still okay to do that. Talked about my safety chains. They were properly mounted and secure. There's no modifications, no illegal bolts. Talk about, and they like these little details because it lets you know what you're talking about. Talk about it has the proper clevis pin with cotter pin in place. That can't be a bolt. That can't be other things. And the other reason I'm talking through this little video is this truck is not like you see on most of the YouTube videos. This truck is older. It's been used. It's got a little bit of abuse. I saw a lot of YouTube videos talking about it's not damaged, bent, or broken, blah, blah, blah. This truck, you can't say that with this truck. This truck has damage. It has things that are bent or broken. And I'll go through some of them. I mean, the steps. These steps are visually bent. They are properly mounted and secure though. You cannot bend that step out. I tried. So I mean, if it doesn't have to be bent, not everything has to be bent, broken, or damaged. Main thing, talk them through, no illegal welds on the wheels properly mounted and secure. The wheel can't be damaged. The tires can't really be damaged. You guys might be too zoomed in there, sorry, but talk through your tires, your wheels, your brakes, stuff like that can't be damaged. But other things can show little signs of damage. It doesn't have to be an absolutely perfect vehicle. Got a little crack in the fender that we've plated. These things they don't mind. The main thing is it needs to be properly mounted and secure. That's one of the keys. Don't want your air brake system leaking or anything like that, but a little damage here and there, nothing to be afraid of. I was kind of overthinking it. I wanted the vehicle to be as perfect as could be. Your mirrors, they don't need to be bent, damaged, or broken, and they need to be properly mounted and secure, things like that. But if your door's bent or some of your steps, they can be a little bent. The trailer step, that thing is mangled. But again, I told her, properly mounted and secure. You cannot move that thing. We used an excavator to pull that thing back into place. So yeah, it is a little bit bent. It has its tread, and you can talk them through things like that too. The tread's still here, so it's still safe to use. It doesn't have any major obstructions. So most of these people will be open to talking them through things. And as far as the Pintle hitch, So I have an air brake truck, electric brake trailer. Again, something else they don't normally see. But also I talked through that of this particular truck. These are not air brake hookups. These are hydraulic hookups for a tool carrier. But I could tell by dealing with the examiner, I don't think she knew that. But I talked through, if this were an air brake trailer, I talked through I would still have my electrical connection. I would also have 2 air brake lines, a blue and a red. Service for blue, red for the parking / emergency. I talked through that. I did that in my in-cab portion as well. I've only got the one. We'll get up here in the cab and show it real quick. I've only got the one air brake up here. So as I was going through my air brake, my leak down tests, and my parking brake pull test, for my parking brake pull test, I pulled this out. I pulled against the parking brake, worked just fine. I pushed it in. I told her that I'm going to do a pull test on the trailer. This is the service of the trailer. This is not the parking. And then I also said, if I had an air brake trailer, I would pull this out and I would push in the air brake for the trailer and do a pull test against the trailer parking brake. And then when I was doing my leak test, where you hold the pedal for a minute and you can't lose more than this combination, couldn't lose more than 3 psi in a minute. I told her if I had an air brake trailer in the back, I couldn't lose more than 4. So just simply talking through that stuff, even though it's not present on this vehicle, it showed that I knew what I was talking about. And she had no problem with me talking through that stuff, because like I told her, it's a possible option I could encounter with this vehicle. So that right there started to buy me some trust with the examiner, that because they're not really there to nitpick your truck completely. They want to make sure it's safe to be on the road, and then they want to make sure you know what you're supposed to know. They're not going to go through and quiz you on every single thing usually, but unless you probably show like you didn't really prepare. And I prepared. I would come out here in the evenings or in the morning if I had a little bit of time on break when I was working from home. I would come out here and I would just go through and pre-trip the truck. Even though I wasn't going anywhere, I'd still come out here and pre-trip it just to practice it. Do that for a week or so, and you'll have it pretty well down in your mind of what you need to go through. And go ahead and pre-trip the whole thing, because you never know what they might call for. The guy ahead of me, he did have probably one of the maybe more stricter examiners from what I heard. When I got there for my appointment at 9, he was still doing his pre-trip. It was a rough one for him, but I don't know how much he prepared. He doesn't normally drive his trucks. He pays people to drive his trucks. He just wanted to get his CDL. So he had kind of a rough go of it. He had some infractions on his backing course and things like that. So now that we got through the pre-trip, and again, I'm not going through and pre-tripping this whole thing. This is, you can watch the pre-trip videos. It is pretty well, this setup is pretty similar. It has some differences, mainly right here. You don't have double sets of axles, but you got the duals, you got the air brakes. The electric brakes, really there's nothing that different with electric brakes. You still got the same style suspension components, leaf spring suspension, U-bolts, your tires, your rims, all that stuff still basically falls into the same pattern of everything up front. The electric brakes, the main thing I was going to tell them on the brakes if they would have quizzed me is number one, make sure there's some visible pad. Make sure there's no debris or oil leaking onto the pad surfaces that would impair the pad's braking ability or the brakes braking ability. Look at the drums, make sure they're not damaged or broken or cracked, and make sure they don't have any bluing showing signs of overheating, stuff like that. The pad thicknesses are definitely different. These run real thin pads. The truck runs real thick pads, so I wasn't going to give them a pad thickness. But other than that, those would have been the main differences. As far as the skills tests, see, the first skills test, straight line backing, which is pretty easy. If you can't straight line back, you're gonna have a hard time. And then did offset backing to the driver's side. I'd actually practiced everything in here in the lot on the passenger side, but took my time, no big deal. And then the final skills test was parallel parking at the particular location. I parallel parked on the driver's side, which isn't necessarily easier because once you get turned in, that back corner would be headed towards the cones on that side, and you're already having to S the truck or angle the truck, and you lose sight of that back corner. So in Illinois, you get 2 free pull-ups and 2 free looks. So I got in there, I kind of came in, I backed in kind of shallow, and I could see it in this mirror that the corner of the trailer was outside the box a little bit, and I had about 5 foot to the back of the cones with my setup. And I knew I could have pushed further back and maybe pulled and darted the truck over and got it in line, but I didn't really want to chance it. So I went ahead, stopped, got out, used a free look. Didn't really like where I was at completely. I knew I could come in a little deeper. So I had told, and you don't have to tell them this, I told her, all right, I'm gonna use a free pull-up. So I pulled forward a little bit, backed in a little deeper, got closer to where I wanted to be, and then I just used the mirrors and pushed the trailer back closer to the cones. I didn't get super close to the cones, but I knew I had plenty of room to get the truck over into the box completely and not get my boom across the front set of cones. And I passed the skills test, and then we did a drive test, which is not too big of a deal. I think some of them, one thing to watch for on the drive tests is we chatted a little bit on there. Because of my vehicle, the guy ahead of me had a tractor trailer with he had a dump bed trailer semi, but he didn't have a middle seat. So I had the middle seat, and again, they were trying to train a lady to be an examiner. So I had the main examiner sitting here, the trainee sitting in the middle, and I was driving. So I had somebody to shift around, so that made it a little tight on some of the shifts up into high gear, but not too bad. And we sat there and talked. Some of that is they will try to talk to you a little bit, I think, just to see if they can get you distracted, because people talking can get distracted, and you might miss a stop sign, might miss a bridge sign or an underpass sign. So, and it was the only test in the area they really had. Illinois is pretty flat, don't have a whole lot of downhills. The main thing on the drive, pulled off in an area close to an industrial park. Just wanted me to show how I pull off to the side of the road and stop the vehicle on the side of the road. We did go under a bridge. The height of this truck is 12.6, and I saw that the bridge was 14.2, so I did call out, bridge is 14.2, truck is 12.6 before we got to the bridge. So she was looking for that to be called out. We didn't go over a bridge, but or actually we did, but it didn't have a weight sign on it. I didn't call it out, so she might have marked me down for it. If she did, she didn't tell me. So as far as I know, I didn't really get any violations, but and I passed. So that was all I really cared about. If I got a violation, no big deal. Didn't care as long as I still could pass the test. So that's just a little walkthrough and talk about taking a Class A CDL with a setup like this. So I cannot drive a tractor trailer with a 5th wheel hitch. So I have an O and a K restriction. I am interstate, or I'm intrastate, not interstate. So I can only drive in Illinois, and I can only drive basically Class A vehicles that have some sort of regular trailer hitch setup other than basically anything other than the 5th wheel. This could be a gooseneck with the gooseneck ball, and that would be perfectly fine, because it's specifically towards that 5th wheel plate is my restriction. And I did talk to her about if I wanted to ever change that restriction, because I'm one of the end of the group here that so in February, if you didn't have a CDL permit by February of this year, you were going to have to take actual classes to be able to get your CDL permit. So I got in ahead of that. I got in December and did my CDL permit, and I've been driving some through these jobs that we've been doing, and I haven't been videoing all the jobs because we've been in a hustle to get this truck really in probably better shape than it even needed to be to pass that test. I made sure all the dash lights were working, had to go through that, had to go through a bunch of stuff just to, because I know they can be nitpicky. They nitpicked me on the fact I didn't have the front license plate on the truck, and I forgot to put it on there before we went down there. I just don't like to run front license plates, never have. That comes from, I used to live in Georgia where they don't run front license plates, so it's just foreign to me, I guess. But kind of lost my train of thought here. But so yeah, as far as the hitch type, this could be a gooseneck trailer, and you're still good, you just can't drive the fifth wheel. So, but there's no weight restriction. I could drive a tri-axle with this trailer. I could drive a tri-axle with a bigger trailer, or a quad axle with a bigger trailer. It's got to be this sort of Pintle style setup, or normal hitch, or even a gooseneck hitch style setup. That said, this dump truck here, this F450, because of its gross vehicle weight and this trailer's gross vehicle weight, this is a Class A CDL setup when these two are hooked together. Doesn't look like it should be. Most DOT, most state cops probably wouldn't check it that way, but it is. So even my other trailer over there, and actually the set of tires that were on this trailer, the back set, had the edge worn off funny, like they came off an axle that had been bent. So I actually pulled the trailer tires off that and put them on this one just to take the test. These are only E-rated tires on an 8,000 pound axle. They're not looking for any of that, so it didn't really matter that the tires are a little underrated for the axle, because those are H or F rated tires over there. The one other thing I will say that almost tripped me up and was a matter of debate for a short time, and they actually had to go in and check, is that I've got this trailer under tagged. This trailer is a TE, and I'll probably blur that out, but this trailer is a TE, 14,000 pound tag on a 16,000 pound GVW trailer. So she right out of the gate said I had an improperly tagged trailer, and I right out of the gate started arguing. So this was right out of the beginning where she was checking the VIN, or not the VIN, but the registrations, just reviewing the registrations real quick. So the truck is also under tag. The truck is tagged at 26,000 pounds. It's a 33,000 GVW truck. We didn't even get to that part. It started right at the trailer, which this is different in other states, but in Illinois, your only options for a trailer are 14 or 20,000 pounds. So I started arguing right out of the gate that there's no way I can properly tag a 16,000 pound trailer. It's going to be either be over tagged or under tagged. And like I told her, I picked the closest under tag, because I can put a 20,000 pound tag on it, but I can't utilize it because the GVW is 16, so I still can't get over 16. So like anything I do, I'm kind of limited there. So I tagged it at 14. The trailer does not weigh 14 empty, so we're good legally. So, and she went inside and talked with some people and gave me the okay to proceed, because that was almost a stop ship right there. So and this trailer does not have a VIN tag on it that is readable. It actually blew off when we painted it, and I think I probably still need to get that video up, but it does have a VIN number stamped in down here, so you can tell it is the correct trailer for the correct registration. But in hindsight, if you're taking a trailer and it doesn't have a legible VIN tag on it, you tell them that the weight is the same as on the tag, or the same tag and the trailer matches weight. Because just don't even bother with that. I wouldn't be my recommendation, because Different examiners might take that differently, but it's still legal. But as long as I don't have more than 14,000 pounds on this set of axles. So again, examiners aren't exactly CDL licensed. They pretty well know what the book is or what the iPad's telling them. So all right, guys, I think that pretty well concludes our review of our non-traditional Class A CDL setup. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give us a like, helps the channel out, lets me sort of know what you guys like, what you don't like, and we'll try to get some more content coming now that we've got this big hurdle out of my way, because I had to have that passed before the end of the year. So now I'll be free to do some more filming and get some more jobs done. Hope you enjoy.